Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the Veteran Crowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight.
Welcome, everybody. My guest today is Eric Bronner, founder and COO of Veterans for Political Innovation. He is a Navy veteran, formerly an NFO on the E-2 Hawkeye. And we're going to be talking about politics today. Previously we had on the program Todd Connor, and we talked a little bit about this subject, but now we're going to really get into the weeds. Eric, welcome to the program. Thank you for stepping into the spotlight.
Thanks so much for having me, Bob, and thanks for all the great work you do on behalf of veterans all across the country.
Well, thank you. So let's talk about this. I think the first thing in solving any problem is defining the problem. So, what is the problem that we're working on here? And I got to tell you, I'm excited about being involved in this because it's the first bipartisan political effort I've ever been involved in that just really makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Bob. And it's so encouraging when people like you step up. And I think the problem that we all see and feel is this toxic polarization, right? It's been called negative polarization. We're no longer voting for people. We're just voting against the other side. And that's a really dangerous place for our representative democracy.
It is really polarized. It seems like, when was the last time you voted for somebody, then you voted for the issues? I mean, you can probably, you can count hundreds of these negative ads, and the world's going to come to an end if my opponent is elected. But you never really know what the political issues are and where people stand.
Exactly, right. And that's what our current system incentivizes, right? When you only have Coke versus Pepsi, you don't have to run on Coke tasting better. You can just run on Pepsi being terrible and, that you're going to die if you drink it, or whatever the hyperbole of the day is. But that's the system that we're stuck with. And so we're trying to change the incentives through healthy competition. And that's what Veterans for Political Innovation is all about.
So how do we do this? Let's break down the problem even further. 90% of congressional districts are non-competitive, right? So it's really the primary that matters, not the general election.
Right. And many people either they don't have the time or just aren't that interested in politics, and they're not even following. A lot of people don't even know what the primary election is. I'm finding, right? It's the first round of the playoffs, but even that's not the best analogy. It's kind of the regular season that no one's paying attention to. And then we get to the Super Bowl and we're asking, why is it always the same two teams in the Super Bowl? And I don't like either one of them. Isn't there a way to bring more competition to the general election in November? And as it turns out, there is.
But the parties don't want to fix the problem, right?
Correct. Right, because this, it's a $16 billion industry, the politics industry for federal elections alone. In 2016, it was 16 billion. In 2020, it was about the same. That was spent on federal elections alone by media, political strategists, consultants, and the entire industry that's built around it.
It's bigger than the motion picture industry. Is it bigger than the NFL?
I haven't checked my NFL stats recently, but I'm not sure.
That's incredible. So in a primary, a very small percentage of people actually vote. What are the statistics on primaries with regards to who votes? And then, if a person can win with a plurality and they're in a district that's going to go Republican or it's going to go Democrat, really small percentage of the folks are picking the candidate.
Exactly. Right. There's a great national cross-partisan reform organization called Unite America. they came out with a report a little less than a year ago. They called the primary problem. And it's exactly what you're saying, Bob, is that in 2020, 10% of eligible voters elected 83% of our Congress, right? And there's a huge disconnect. If the majority of us think Congress is broken, right? Their approval rating is 15 to 20%, but we re-elect 90 to 95% of Congress every year. Why is that? Well, it's because such a small percentage of voters are actually just re-electing the same people, or you have the incumbent advantage and things like that.
So you can be absolutely terrible at what you're doing in the eyes of your customers, and they're not doing anything to fix it.
Because it's only the eyes of that 10% segment that mattered, right? The 10% that are going to vote in the primary. That's who you are spending all of your time and energy focusing on. And then you have this huge number of people that aren't even participating in the primary, or they don't even have a say in it. Yeah.
But it's even smaller than 10%, because if half the people are voting in the Democratic primary and half are voting in the Republican primary.
Yes.
I mean,
and there's 3 or 4 candidates in each of those. So you're really winning a primary with about 3 to 5% support of the entire eligible voting public, right?
And you just need a majority of those. So it's just astounding to me. And so another part of the problem is, well, the person with the money and the motivated voter base, usually around a particular issue, right?
Yep.
Will go win. And I've seen this on both sides of the aisle.
Sure.
You can cite Democrats and you can cite Republican examples right now where those individual senators or congressmen are not towing the line.
Yep.
And so what do they get threatened with?
With being primaried, which has become a verb, right? They will get primaried. Someone farther to the left or farther to the right will run against them and penalize them for not being ideologically pure enough. That's the nicest way I can say it. So that's the broken incentives in our current system. And there was a great book that came out in 2020, The Politics Industry, that said it's really these terrible incentives from our partisan primary elections that incentivize the partisan gridlock and kind of this toxic dysfunction that has become the norm.
But right now the parties don't want to fix it because it allows them to maintain their grip on power.
Yes, right. The insiders have figured out how to game the system and make it work for them, right? The politics industry has figured out how to make it work for them. Now, I will say, it gives me a lot of encouragement. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. Missouri is running a ballot amendment for a top 4 combined primary or open primary with 4 candidates going to November and a ranked ballot. And there's a lot of political consultants from conservative Missouri, so they're red team guys and gals who've said, you know what, I see how broken the system is, and I actually believe in this solution, and they're fighting for it, and at the risk of being blacklisted by their own parties. And this is happening in red Missouri, and we're running a ballot amendment in blue Nevada. Same thing is happening to blue team consultants there, is who get on board with these new innovations as they get blacklisted by their own party.
We're going to come back to the solutions in just a minute, but just to make sure that everybody's got their arms around the problem, right?
Sure.
The parties like having their hold on power.
Yes.
The primary system allows them currently to police their members.
Yep.
So that and so the result is that we're getting people that are farther to the right or farther to the left, and that's very frustrating.
Yes.
The person who wants to rock the boat, who's an independent, makes it almost impossible for them to get on the ballot in November, right?
Yes.
what are the hurdles that, that person who actually has a genuine, interest in fixing the country and doing the right thing, which a lot of veterans are running right now and want to do that. But
Sure.
what are the hurdles that they face in trying to win against this primary system?
Right. It's crazy, Bob, for so many reasons. One is 50 different states, each of them have different ballot access rules for independents, right? And it's usually the hurdle for an independent to get on the ballot is far higher than the partisan candidate who just pays a small fee to their party and then boom, they're on the ballot. But that's not the case for independent candidates in most states. They don't have the network, or the consultants won't work with many independent candidates. So just getting on the ballot alone is extremely difficult.
We're going to come back in just a second. We've been talking with Eric Bronner, founder and CEO of Veterans for Political Innovation.
Honor, duty, service. At the Veteran Crowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. That's why we are launching the Veteran Crowd Rewards Program, exclusively for our individual and corporate members. Now you can save on travel, restaurants, goods, and services from brands you trust online and at over 900,000 locations nationwide. Find out more today at veterancrowdnetwork.com. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. The Veteran Crowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club.
Okay, welcome back to the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. My guest is Eric Bronner, founder and COO of Veterans for Political Innovation. We've kind of defined, Eric, the problem, right? And you mentioned the book, The Politics Industry by Catherine Gale and Michael Porter. Great book. Let's talk about who Veterans for Political Innovation is first, and then what you guys are pushing, because there really are two major initiatives being pushed. But who is Veterans for Political Innovation?
Yeah, so Veterans for Political Innovation, it's a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. It's veterans and supporters from across the country and across the political spectrum banding together to mobilize and advocate for 3 powerful election innovations that will make our politics less toxic through healthy competition. That's what we're working on.
Well, I can only think of 2, but what are the 3?
So it's open primaries, combining
right.
getting rid of partisan primaries, voting innovations like ranked choice voting, although there are others, and then the combination of those 2 things, which we call Final 5 voting.
Okay, so walk me through first, what's an open primary mean?
Sure. Open primary means all candidates are competing on one ballot regardless of party, and that first round of voting, every state is different for when that first round of voting happens. In Missouri, it's in August. So everyone, red team candidates, blue team, green candidates, libertarians, independents would all be on one combined ballot.
Are there any states that are doing that right now?
There are 4 states that have these open primaries. It's California, Washington State, Nebraska, and Alaska.
Okay, so it's being done. Every state gets to decide how they conduct elections. That's in our Constitution, right?
Yep.
But we are seeing some of that. So open primary. So in Virginia, where I am, you either have to vote in the Democratic primary or vote in the Republican primary. If you're an independent, you don't have to declare, but if you're an independent, you can vote in one or the other. I think is the way that it works in Virginia. So if we had open primaries, the Democratic primary, Republican primary, same day, everybody can vote.
Everybody can vote, and you could vote for a Republican candidate for governor, and you could vote for a Democrat for Secretary of State if you wanted.
Okay, so down ballot shifting, all this kind of stuff that can go on, but that's not just the solution. Open primaries are just part of the solution. We also want to do ranked choice voting. So let's talk about how that works and talk about sort of the instant runoff
Yeah.
element.
Yeah. So instant runoff voting is just another name for ranked choice voting. I'm a reform nerd, so I'll try not to get too far in the weeds, but technically it's a ranked choice ballot. And if none of the candidates get over 50% of the first place votes, then it empowers a series of instant runoffs. They happen instantaneously between the remaining candidates. So if the person you picked as your number one, Bob, if they finished fourth or last, they would be eliminated. And then now your second place vote would be transferred to one of the remaining candidates until someone
and you
is
keep
over.
doing that. So the bottom, the last place finishers' votes are redistributed.
Yep.
Until you have a winner that has a majority.
Exactly.
Now, ranked choice voting, open primaries has one primary result, and that is that the candidates can't be singular issue candidates. They've got to consider appealing to a broader base. Is that correct?
Exactly. In a top 4 or 5 system with ranked choice voting, the candidates cannot win by just demonizing an opponent, right? Because if you're not everyone's first choice, you want to be their second choice. So it incentivizes more collaborative campaigning. Those negative attack ads you mentioned earlier, they go away because they're just not effective. And then you're exactly right, Bob. People have to run on their record and their ideas, and it can't just be, you're not going to win if you're just focused on one thing and one thing only, right? You have to appeal to a much broader base of support.
Excellent outcome. Now, all right, now we get past the primary. We're doing it the right way. Ranked choice voting, open primaries, but the top 4 or 5 might be on the final ballot. Is that right?
Right. In Alaska, it's going to be 4 candidates going. There's legislation pending in Wisconsin for final 5 voting. The ballot amendment in Missouri is for 4 candidates, and the ballot amendment in Nevada is for 5 candidates to go.
So you could have a couple of Republicans, a couple of Democrats, a couple of, and the parties are going to hate that because they got to, campaign for 2 people maybe, right? I mean, what's been the reaction from the parties about having 2 candidates on the same ballot from the same party?
Generally speaking, I mentioned this earlier, in Missouri where I live, the party insiders don't like this at all. And primarily it's, the red team runs our state. In Nevada, it's a blue state, and it's the blue team that doesn't like this proposed change. So yeah.
Are the states then that have this, when they get to the election in November, are they doing a ranked choice ballot also in November?
Yes. So the primary would stay the same. Voters just get 1 vote, and it would be the top 4 or 5 finishers go to the general.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the general uses a ranked choice ballot in both Missouri and
now that
Nevada.
you say it that way, it makes more sense to me. You wouldn't want to do the ranked choice voting twice. It would sort of eliminate the purpose, right? And then you get the broader scope of people voting in the ranked choice election.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the founders intended, Bob, right? Was that the general election was intended to be the main election, right? And it's still when the most people are paying attention. And this is the election where we want there to be really healthy competition in every single district in our country. That's good competition in every other industry is how the customer gets better results, right?
Okay, so how do our listeners learn more about Veterans for Political Innovation?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So please go check out our website. It has a lot of fantastic material, veteransforpoliticalinnovation.org. That's a mouthful, so you can do the shorthand, v-pi.org. You'll find a lot of great information there. We have some big events coming up in March. that we'd love to get people involved with in both Missouri and Nevada and other states as well.
Talk about those events. What have you guys got on the table?
So March 16th, we're doing a joint launch event in Las Vegas with the Southern Nevada Veterans Chamber of Commerce. And that's to bring attention to this ballot amendment for final 5 voting. And sometimes people will say to me, well, Eric, why are you mixing business and politics, right? To which I'll usually say, a toxic, dysfunctional political system is not good for business. It's not good for anyone. So let's come together and try to fix the system itself.
Okay, so those events are coming up. We'll put links to Veterans for Political Innovation and for these events, if we can, on the show notes. Final set of questions. Why is it so important for veterans to be involved in this?
Yeah, in spite of all of our flaws, polls still show that veterans are one of America's most trusted messengers, right? So the idea we're working on is, how do we get some of America's most trusted messengers excited about nonpartisan election innovations that will help fix and repair some of our least trusted institutions? So if we can get our most trusted messengers activated around this, and oh, by the way, close to 50% of veterans don't identify with either party, either major political party. So there's a lot of really good people sitting on the sidelines because they feel as if they are politically homeless. We want to get those people activated for a cause that's going to bring our country together, make the system work better, and make our democracy stronger, so that, some of the things that we're seeing on a global level won't happen when America is at its best and strongest.
So I'm going to put the challenge out to all the veterans that are listening to our program. Go to veteransforpoliticalinnovation.org. Check it out. Give some thought to what's being done here. This is not a partisan thing. We're not trying to eliminate the Electoral College, or not trying to stack the Supreme Court. Those are the partisan tactics. This is a way for the power to really come back to the people, because the parties have wrestled this away. And it's a perfect example, Eric, when you say, Congress has an 11% approval rating and 90% of the people get sent back. That's no way to run a business. If we were running our businesses that way, we'd be bankrupt.
Absolutely.
We'd be absolutely bankrupt. Well, listen, it's been great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for doing this. This is just a great organization. I'm glad we're able to help spread the word.
Thanks so much for getting involved yourself, Bob. Thank you for having me here today, and for all the good work you do with Veteran Crowd. Thank you.
We're going to have additional guests from the Veterans for Political Innovation on the program throughout the spring. We're going to be watching this, try to get it done. In our state in Virginia, some ranked choice voting was done, and I think the camel's nose is in the tent, hopefully in Virginia. So we're going to keep working on that. Well, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. Our guest has been Eric Bronner, founder and COO of the Veterans for Political Innovation. We'll put links to his organization on the show notes for this. And Eric, again, I just want to give a shout out, an Army Bravo Zulu, to my Navy compatriot here. Thank you for appearing on the program. And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by Veteran Crowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at veterancrowdnetwork.com. We'll see you next time.